Hello and welcome to NJBIZ Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Kanai. My guest today is Angelo Genova. He is the founder and chairman of Genova Burns in Newark, one of the state's most prominent and high-powered law firms. Angelo, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm very enthused and privileged to be able to spend some time with you.
Oh, well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Now, we spoke earlier briefly at the Newark Summit, the Newark Real Estate Summit earlier this year, and I wanted to start by picking up a little bit on some of what we were talking about there, mainly because the city of Newark is a subject that I'm endlessly interested in, and I'm wondering why other people should be interested in Newark. It's the state's largest city. Why is its economic health so important to the economy overall of New Jersey? This is kind of sort of one of the themes that ran through a lot of the conversations I had that day. What's going on in Newark, and why should the rest of New Jersey care?
That's a really great question. Why should the rest of the state care? I think there are a variety of reasons. It starts with history. If we're to preserve our sense of history of who we are as a state and New Jersey's industrial tradition, its commerce tradition, its business tradition, its ethnic tradition, diversity traditions, they all trace back to Newark. You don't have to spend a lot of time pursuing the history books to understand the role Newark played in the revolutionary period,
Sure.
in the Industrial Revolution, in the civil rights movement, and all roads lead to Newark in so much that's about New Jersey. So I would start there.
Okay.
From a modern day point of view, in many respects it's a consequence of what I just described. It's the epicenter of so much. It's the epicenter of our major infrastructure. It's the epicenter of our tourism business in the sense that people come in and out of our state. It's the hub of our transportation systems. It's the hub of our emerging internet and broadband systems. Its proximity to New York is compelling in terms of benefiting from the commerce there, and it is the platform for our port. So there's that component. The other piece is the challenges, the socioeconomic challenges of our state. I forget which mayor said it, but addressing the issues, the urban challenges of Newark, is tantamount to addressing the urban challenges of America. And to the extent that we have in Newark the promise of a city that has yet to be fully realized, and the challenges of both race issues and socioeconomic issues that continue to face an urban setting, New Jersey should want to address those. And New Jersey's addressing them is a contribution to establishing paradigms and formulas for addressing socioeconomic issues that could serve the rest of our country and no doubt will serve our state. One glaring example is public education. How we address public education, and Newark's a preeminent Abbott district, and did the experiment of control by the state play out, or is the public education better served? How charter schools play out. So you have this microcosm of very much of what's New Jersey, and a petri dish, if you will, for the resolution of social and economic and race issues that could serve the balance of our state as well as the country. So why should we be concerned? We should be concerned because we own Newark as a state. It's part of the fabric of who we are. It's integral to our economy. Our major institutions are here. Our courts are here. Our universities are here. Our principal technical schools here. Our major corporations of consequence are here. Audible, Prudential, among others. So yeah, I think we should own Newark, and not view it in isolation, but part of the fabric of our state.
Right. I mean, as you say, it's a transportation hub. I would imagine people who live in North Jersey, at least, have to at least pass through Newark fairly regularly. What's going on there, the vitality or the vitality that's returning should be evident, I would think, to most people.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how they get to the airport. It's 78, it's McCarter Highway, it's 280, it's the Turnpike. Depending on which way you come. But if you take McCarter Highway, you're going to see the proliferation. You're going to see the towers that Bore has built. You're going to see the Prudential Center. You're going to see the expansion at the Performing Arts Center. You're going to see the tangible consequences of what are happening. Our
Right.
our highway system kind of skirts around the city like most cities, but you get to see the skyline and the like. And if you pay attention, one can see the emerging vibrance of our city and the commitments that are being made by other folks.
Well, and the train tracks run right through the city. I mean, if you're commuting
Oh,
to New York
sure.
or
Yeah,
going,
right.
and you can see what's going on there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You just reminded me because I have friends that take the line in from, I guess it's the Montclair line, and they comment on seeing my building here in Newark with our name emblazoned on it. So yeah, they get to see what's happening, and I get a little bit of free advertising. So
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of those tangible achievements. How would you assess the city's performance in economic development in recent years, particularly coming out of the pandemic, where a lot of urban areas sort of had difficulty adjusting to the new reality of not so many people coming downtown, for example, to work? What is it like now in the city? What is it like working there, and what is it like as you walk around since you're in the middle of it?
right.
What are you seeing, and what should we be looking for?
I see mixed. I see some really good, and I see some things that are slow to reach fruition. On the positive side, I see groundbreaking at the Performing Arts Center for its expansion there. I see groundbreaking for another Bore Tower along the river. I see commitments made for the development at the old Newark Barracks site. Construction equipment was moved in just a few weeks ago. The tower is going up. The Halo Tower is going up as we speak, and plans are for the second tower. I see NJIT making a commitment to move its administrative offices and take the deep plunge to stay in Newark, to not look for alternatives, campuses outside of Newark, and in moving into 494 Broad Street, where I call home. I see Audible regularly committed to investing time, energy, and personnel. What I see that is the most impressive to me on the positive side, I see a level of acumen, competence, passion, and enthusiasm in the administrative bureaucracy that I didn't see in the
Okay.
past. I give very high marks to the Deputy Mayor, Allison Ladd, and high marks to the mayor for having chosen her. But she's somebody that brings a great deal of understanding of urban development, and she's very measured, she's capable, she's built a good team, and she's helped in the progress. uh, on the downside, if you will, and the slow side, I think general economic circumstances have tempered enthusiasm not only for Newark but other places. Less so Jersey City, because I think it just has such a compelling proximity to New York, and a contrast. But interest rates, availability of capital, the Aspire program, I think, has been a great boost for those that are looking to do work here in Newark. But even that program still has some challenges. So when you look at just the general economic circumstances, the availability of capital, I think Newark has not been shielded, nor has it been exempt from what developers see. Another piece, I am beginning to see um, points of on the ground interest in what I'll call street life activities. Um, uh, I would like to see more,
Mhm.
but we get inquiries more often than not about folks that want to put restaurants in the city or want to take new property. I got a call just the other day for something along Halsey Street that we were able to connect people with.
Okay.
So I would have to say I'm still a big cheerleader, still a big supporter. I see tangible evidence of it, but I also see the challenges that come with the general economy as it relates to the availability of capital, and just the tentativeness of the willingness of some people to take risk.
Okay. Now that was actually the next thing I was going to ask you about, is what would be the key to continuing the development. You mentioned Jersey City before. Yes, it's close to New York. Newark is also a one-seat ride away from both Midtown and downtown. You would think that that would be something too. That yes, it's not 3 minutes as you would from Journal Square, but still, it's not terrible. And you also mentioned public education, and I remember when I was working in Newark back in the '90s, that was a big discussion about whether you could actually do economic development before you fix the public schools. Then the question was, well, how do you fix the public schools without economic development? It was sort of a chicken and egg thing. Where do you come down on this? What is going to be the key, or what is the most important factor that may be missing now that policymakers should be focusing
Well, I wish I had the answer to that, but
on?
I guess I would take a step
Well, we
back.
come with the hard questions here,
Yeah,
so
yeah, well, they are, and that's a hard question, but I'll give you my observation, my reaction. I start by putting myself in the shoes of a young person starting a family uh, uh, in a middle market job, if you will, looking for middle market housing. And the questions I asked when I was in that situation many years ago, where do I settle? What is my quality of life going to be? What is my housing going to look like? What schools are my children going to go to? What options do I have? What nightlife options? What quality of life options? What do recreational programs look like? And I think if there is a solution, it's really about focusing on the quality of life that a city can introduce into the lives of folks. And we in Newark have pockets of that success. And there are different neighborhoods that appeal to folks. The downtown is beginning to appeal to a generation that hangs in Newark. I look at I don't think the folks that want to develop the Iberia site with that many units, or the folks that want to develop the Bear site, it's gone unnoticed on them that the success in Harrison can be easily translated on this side of the river. The Russo development that we were involved in at Vermella is almost fully occupied.
okay.
You visit the place; it's as good a quality as anything I've seen in Jersey City or Harrison along the train line. And I think the North Broad Street station has been understated and offers a 19-minute ride into town. So
Mhm.
I guess my answer to the question is that selling Newark and its education system, I think the superintendent's done a fine job. I think the system can do better. The charter schools are very well received here in the city. They have a high percentage of folks that are that are participating. I think as those things turn and people get comfortable that they can get quality housing, they can get it at a market price. The mayor has pushed very hard with success for a 20% affordable housing component, even though resisted by the development community, but it appears to have been embraced. People are still building and finding a way to blue pencil their projects. So I think it's holistic. I don't think there's a silver bullet. I think, yeah, Newark has to answer the question: is it a good place and great place to work and live? And it gets tagged periodically with negative press in that regard. It's got to find a way to market it as a community that people say, yeah, that sounds like a good place. And you see pockets and snippets. You look at what happens in the Ironbound. You look at pockets in downtown, pockets in the North Ward, and even the Central Ward and the South Ward. I mean, there are places. So we still have the extension of the path yet to see going into the South Ward. So it'll take time. It's incremental. It's as much marketing as reality. And I think this mayor understands that, and doesn't happen overnight. But I think he's invested, his administration's invested, trying to accomplish that.
Okay, and it should that come mostly from the city itself, from local officials? Is there a role for the state? I'm asking because the Murphy administration has made an effort, at least, or at least a rhetorical effort, to try and boost, for example, technology in the city, and try and
Yeah, it goes
like
it
tech
goes
firms.
back it goes back to, I think, your one of your earlier questions. Why should we care about Newark? I think we should care about Newark for all those reasons. But yes, it should involve the state. I think of how Don Katz, when he was head of at um, over at Audible, and then we have Mr.
Right.
Carrigan, who's picking up the torch or the baton. You know, those corporations internally are sending a message. That corporation, others are sending messages that Newark is a place to be. Newark is a place to live, and I think the state's support to accomplish that is vital. The resources of the state, the development of laws and policies that allow for that. You know, one of the challenges of Newark and our present laws that likely need a revisiting have to do with, and I'm a developer representative, so I'm sure my developer friends might not be happy with what I'm about to say, but we have to find a way that people can't sit on property, and
Okay.
and it goes beyond blight designations. There has to be a a means and a method to motivate people to utilize land in a different way and
Mhm.
contribute to the development of the city and not land bank, and policies which either motivate people and incentivize people to do it in a very aggressive way or penalize them if it just goes on too long. So
Right.
there are what I'll call systemic challenges, but on the issue of image, I think it's everybody's responsibility that wants to see Newark succeed to encourage a positive image of the city uh, where it's deserved. I don't think people should be duped, but I think where it's deserved, the image should be advanced.
Okay. I'm curious then about your view of the business climate in general, not just in Newark, but around the state. Obviously, the Murphy administration has made a lot of changes to some of the rules regarding development and what's going to happen down the shore with climate change, all sorts of things that are happening now. How do you assess that and where the state is going? Is it heading in the right direction, to ask the pollster's favorite question?
Well, again, I'll give a mixed answer.
Okay.
I've been impressed, and I'm biased. I'm a supporter of Governor Murphy, but I've been impressed with his approach. When you look at it at its core elements, you know, he uses the slogan, you know, fairer and stronger.
Right.
Uh, but I think that's become manifest in his approach. When you look at his approach, he's identified emerging silos for business. So he targeted clean energy, and we see the results of that. Some step backs in terms of offshore wind with Ørsted's moving out of the state,
Right.
but there are other developers that have come in. But he's positioning our state to be a player in that emerging industry, including solar. He's positioning our state to be an emerging and successful player in the film industry, which I've been involved in my representations of the representation of the Screen Alliance of New Jersey,
Okay.
an emerging trade association that represents a lot of the players in that world. He has been shoulder to shoulder with Senator Scutari in the development of legislation to support the cannabis industry. You know, his support of internet broadband here in Newark and leveraging our capacities here through the Newark Joint Venture Fund and folks at Audible and folks at Prudential and the Newark Alliance and all. So what I've seen Governor Murphy is he has had the vision of saying, okay, what are emerging industries? Where do we want to put our attention? Where do we want to put our resources? Where do we want to develop our laws in a way that are going to support the development of those industries, attract risk takers, capital, and job makers? Um, I do think, and these are my personal sentiments, not the sentiments of him or his administration, but representing a lot of institutional clients, which is what I do. I think the regulations
Right.
can be a challenge at time. I have concerns about whether we are overregulated and whether those regulations are becoming impediments to business people that might, on first blush, want to take risk in New Jersey for all the wonderful things it offers, the variety, the diversity, the culture, the education, all the things that the governor talks about. But when you're in boardrooms talking to clients, they tell you from their perspective, they have concerns about the hoops they have to jump through, which in some cases might be necessary, but might be another way to approach it. So the regulatory environment is a challenge for those that want to come here. And for those that are already here, I think it's a frustration. They've made so
Okay.
much of an investment, it's hard for them to leave, but we can tick off the companies that have chosen to leave our state in part for that reason.
Right. So that's a reality. That's not just perception from outsiders. That's the difficult regulatory environment is a reality here.
I think it is. I mean, in the circles I travel in, I mean, there are those that would disagree with me. They say, no, it's necessary, and
Right.
business needs to be tempered and managed and all. But I represent a lot of good minded, fair-minded people in middle market businesses that have put their stakes up here in New Jersey and are challenged every day with um, a variety of different challenges in the kind of work that they do. And I just think that, maybe we should pause and take a look at the import and impact. I mean, NJBIA has been a great advocate in this space of trying to get our legislature and this administration to pause and take a look at things as they deliberate on the adoption of a new rule, a new regulation, and not every problem gets solved by a regulation. Sometimes it gets solved by a conversation.
Okay. And that's sort of that argument, the regulatory and affordability argument is sort of the counterweight to the advantages that the administration always touts in New Jersey: the infrastructure, the skilled workforce, proximity to markets. Affordability then becomes the big problem, and that mainly a function of that regulatory environment.
I mean, I think regulatory regimes add additional costs.
Right.
There are other, corporate tax rates, taxes on your employees. The elimination of the SALT tax had an impact
Of
on
course.
companies. I think it's a combination of all those things, but I think it's not an insignificant contributor to choices. I mean, I can't pinpoint to you, Jeff, what I've read recently, but there isn't a few months that doesn't go by that some magazine is, I think I was watching, I was CNBC does their annual, states to do business
Right.
in, and, New Jersey wasn't really right up there, and Forbes does the same thing, and a lot of people do. And, I spent a good deal of time in Pennsylvania. I own a home there. I'm a resident of New Jersey and here more often than not, but I do spend a good deal of time in the Lehigh Valley,
Mhm.
and I see the differences in terms of tax structure, in terms of approval process, land use process, the ability to move things and develop. I've watched places like Bethlehem and Easton and even Allentown uh, uh, move in ways that look like New Jersey 20, 25 years ago. So uh, I do see on a regular basis the contrast between uh, uh, places like Pennsylvania that I think are more user friendly in a regulatory environment than New Jersey,
Okay.
although that's even changing in Pennsylvania.
All right. Okay. Which is all wrapped up in politics, something you alluded to your interest in and involvement in politics. Given that interest and involvement, I have to ask you about what's been going on recently in the state with the dispute over the county line. It seems like the political environment in the state has changed dramatically in just a few months. Is that your assessment too? Number one, and number two, are the changes for the better?
Well, in the interest of, I won't call it disclosure, I was one of the lawyers that defended the ballot
Right.
line in the sense that I defended several county clerks that have to administer that. I think the simple answer to your question, yes, is I think it's introduced a perceived sea change, although I don't know whether that it will be a reality, but there is a perceived sea change that the tradition of party endorsements have become undone. Uh,
Mhm.
when you get beyond the perception, I don't think it's as simple as that. I think the legislature ultimately will begin to address it. But at the core of this issue on the ballot line is the ability of party leaders to endorse candidates in primary elections and reflect that endorsement on the ballot. That's
Okay.
really what it's about. And, we talk about lines, we talked about how they're structured. And the law that was challenged provided a means to tell the primary voter, this is who we, the party leaders, believe should be our candidate. You can vote for others, but these are the people that we think should be our candidate. In the end, I think this litigation is just a play out of a power struggle between those that are not in leadership positions in the political party and those who are. And what has gotten lost on the public, I think, generally in the journalistic community, is this is all in the context of a primary election.
Right.
Parties are private organizations. People that participate in primaries are people that choose to be part of those private organizations. You, if you're not registered as a Democrat or a Republican, can't vote in a primary.
Right.
So more and more people are declining to identify themselves and register in that way. So, should party leaders be able to tell party members, this is who we think would be our candidates? I mean, the classic example of that is what's happening in the presidential race. I mean, delegates are going to choose who the candidates are.
Right.
So that was part of your question, I guess, was the ballot line. And I guess you had another piece to it, which I'm trying to remember. You asked
It was
about.
just basically what you thought of what was going on, and whether the changes were
Yeah.
better or worse, really.
Yeah, I think whether or not they're better or worse, I think is the verdict's still out.
Okay.
That's my opinion, because I do think that, and I'm a partisan, so and an institutionalist, so I'm revealing my sensibilities here. But my view is that there is value to political party structure, there is value to political party leadership, and value to political party discipline. I think can there be reforms as to how people participate in the process? Yes, there can be. There always are. I came up as a reformist many years ago. At the same time, I don't think what's the expression? You throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think it requires more of a deliberative thinking than one litigation and one or two oral arguments on the constitutionality of the statute. But I do think it has created, on a practical level, the fissures that have existed in the emerging fissures in the Democratic Party between the progressive wing and its centrist wing were revealed in a significant way. And I think they'll continue in succeeding elections in the less so. I mean, we saw it in the Senate race, and I think we'll see it in the gubernatorial race.
Okay. All right. You've been very generous with your time. I just want to ask you one more thing before I let you go, and that is about the state of the legal business in New Jersey. What is it like doing business in a law firm now, and how's your firm doing?
Well, I'll talk globally for a moment.
Okay.
I think the legal business it continued to be on a trajectory of behemoth law firms. The parochialism that existed when I began practicing law is not the same. Major national law firms have footprints in New Jersey and compete with firms that are Jersey centric like mine, although we venture into some other jurisdictions at times. But they're becoming corporate-like in nature. And that, I think, has created an environment where people are much more portable, people are much more transient, that you see on a daily basis, people coming and going from law firms. So I think that New Jersey has not been exempt from that consequence. Right. And I think even our largest law firms, among them, I cite Lowenstein, which I think is New Jersey's premier homegrown law firm in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
They've grown quite successfully, and I admire the firm and their leaders. That I think that they had the prescience to understand that it was a more national platform and have moved in that direction. But I think you see other New Jersey law firms that have been Jersey centric, either folding into national law firms or having a diminished role and not having access to major national institutional clients in the same way that we might have years ago. At the same time, it presents an opportunity to firms like mine for the middle market who don't want to pay the fees, don't want to have the burdens of the costs associated with major law firms, the number of lawyers that get put on cases, and the like. You get a value for that. I'm not saying you don't, but not every case needs that amount of service. So I see that there's a chasm that's growing between these behemoth law firms and where middle market law firms like mine fit in the mix. And it relates to the economic question that you mentioned, because uh, to the extent New Jersey's economy remains or continues to be viable, it's good for middle market parochial firms like mine. My firm's doing fine. We've had our challenges like a lot of other law firms of late, but I feel very good about the fact that we are part of the institutional legal fabric here in the state. I like to think we have a brand that attracts independent of individuals, and we are doing quite well and are very happy about it.
Very good. Well, we will leave it there then on that note. Angelo Genova, the founder and chairman of Genova Burns, thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And I hope you'll come back and continue this discussion. There's a lot we could cover, which we didn't. So,
Yeah, I enjoy this a lot. It got me away from my desk so I can think
okay.
about broader things, Jeff.
All right. Good. Good. Very good. Thanks again. And thank you all for watching. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff.